Hello, it's Phillip Taylor from Richmond Green Chambers speaking. I'm talking this morning about an interesting book from Thompson, Sweet and Maxwell. It's part of their property and conveyancing library. It's this book here, got a green cover, not a particularly heavy book. The title is Renewal of Business Tenancies. And it's quite an important book, obviously, for those of you who have a county court practice in a predominantly city area where there are a lot of business tenancies. This is the third edition, and it's written by Kirk Reynolds, Queen's Counsel, and Wayne Clark. Now, I've produced a series of reviews on the internet and in journals, and the title of my review is The Tenancy Business, the New Regime. Because this book is about real money and lots of real cases. What Reynolds and Clark have done is to produce a much needed new edition, the third one, in view of the Regulatory Reform Business Tenancies England and Wales Order 2003. Now that order, by delegated legislation, amended the main legislation from 1954. In particular, Part 2 of the 1954 Act, and it took effect from the 1st of June 2004. I appreciate we're a few years along the way now, but it's important to know the way in which the law has changed. What I found most helpful about this book, and the particular title, is the excellent explanations of case law which they give in each chapter. And I think they're going to be of great help to you in your county court practice. It certainly is for mine. In the foreword to this book, Mr. Justice Morgan states that to be comprehensive, the work must deal with the vast numbers of judicial decisions and needs to identify areas of controversy, balancing the competing arguments for and against. So the authors, Reynolds and Clark, meet the task admirably, in my view, and have produced what is rightly described as, quote, an essential tool for all practitioners in this area of law and practice. I think it does more than that, because what it does is it builds on the successes of the past and has identified the new important areas of controversy which have arisen since the 2003 order was passed. And obviously we need to deal with that today in our modern practices. Twice the authors refer to the new regime created after 2003, which operates in parallel with the old regime, that's from 1954, in what I thought were rather world-weary terms, because Parliament has not had a chance, of course, of debating this secondary legislation. It's just gone through as much as on the nod, as it were. However, these two Falcon Chambers veterans have placed the emphasis where it's most needed, with case digests, which are in fact of the greatest importance and the great asset for the practitioner. There are 14 chapters, and each chapter is well structured to ask the questions we want to find out about, such as, is there a tenancy, what does it include, who occupies it, and so forth. And this is described, of course, as a textbook, but I find it directly relevant for the practitioner because it's got the essential statements on procedure, for instance in chapter 14, and all aspects of things like repair and rent. And it's not that heavy. I mean, obviously there are other books like the Legal Action Group books, but this one is actually a very, very substantial statement of the law. Appeals are also well covered, so it's more, in my view, by way of a heavyweight practice book. Right at the beginning, the authors set out a most useful checklist for easy reference, using the phrase new regime, as I've indicated, to differentiate the position from the pre-2003 position. Now the old regime applications are a comparative rarity. The third edition is in fact most welcome to replace the supplement. Clearly the new regulatory reform, as we call it, framework policy, introduced by the government in the teeth of cross-party opposition, will produce more examples of this sort of legislation where there's been no parliamentary discussion, which is a pity because we don't get to see the views. So I congratulate both Kirk Reynolds and Wayne Clark for their fortitude in making a success out of their original Renewal of Business Tenancies book, which is part of this Sweet and Maxwell Property and Conveyancing Library, very much for those in that particular area of practice. And I think the referencing help in particular is great for us. They've supplied the best assistance property practitioners can get when dealing with controversial business tenancy areas amid the myriad of argumentative case law on one side and the other, which they have set out, in my view, with plainness and simplicity as a very effective work for all to use. So it is, in fact, establishing the new regime very well. Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.